The United Auto Workers have extended contracts with General Motors and Chrysler after a midnight deadline for a new labor agreement came and went with no such agreement. The union had agreed not to strike at either automaker as part of the 2009 bailout. Joining us now is Bloomberg's Detroit bureau chief, Jeff Green, a longtime reporter on the Auto Beat. Jeff, what more do we know besides what I've just told everyone, that the deadline came and went and negotiations, I take it, continue? Is that right?
Yeah, there's always a lot of theater involved in negotiations. One thing we have learned from the way this played out, confirming a story we first broke on September 2nd out of this bureau, General Motors does appear to be the target of the negotiations. They'll set the pattern, at least at this point, for the other automakers. That's where most of the negotiating is. That's where most of the action is. In fact, Sergio Marchionne, the CEO of Chrysler and Fiat, sent a letter last night, a fairly angry letter, saying that he and Bob King, the president of the UAW, had failed because there was no agreement. He had flown in from the Frankfurt Auto Show just to be here to seal the deal, and now he's said he's going to be gone for a week, and he'll come back if they're willing to wrap things up.
Well, on the point of GM being the target, let's bring in Buzz Hargrove, the former president of the Canadian Auto Workers. Jeff, he's been on the beat, shall we say, a lot longer than you have. Buzz, good to see you this morning from our Toronto bureau.
Thank you.
Tell us, Jeff says there's a lot of theater, and there is a lot of theater in these negotiations with whether it be the UAW or the CAW. Is this par for the course, or is there something different this time around, given the fact that we are post-bailout and there are new provisions to the relationship between the automakers and the union?
The very fact that you approach a deadline with no strike threat or no lockout threat means you have to have a lot more theater if you're going to keep people interested in what's happening. The danger of going up to a deadline with no outcome, so to speak, is you end up not being able to reach a deal, and the frustration, I think, is shown in Sergio Marchionne's letter to Bob King.
What good is a deadline then if there's really no way to force the parties to come to an agreement because of the threat of a strike? What does that mean? Jeff, I put that to you and to Buzz as well.
Well, one of the issues you have here is that they can go to arbitration, and no one's really sure what that will mean. We haven't had an arbitration situation in the past, and there's other issues. They're trying to basically come up with a deal that holds the automakers harmless and gets the workers to vote for it. It's going to be tricky because the UAW has to be seen as bargaining tough. They have to be seen as bringing this right down to the wire. They can't really settle early and look like they didn't make the effort. At the same time, if they add any costs to the automakers, their stocks are already way down from where they were just a few weeks ago. It'll just get worse.
Buzz, I want to pick up on something Jeff just said, that in the sense that the UAW must be seen as bargaining tough. But the eventual deal, is it going to be more beneficial to the companies or to the union?
Well, it seems to me that the bargaining is traditional bargaining, with the exception of the right to strike or lockout. All the rhetoric about bargaining tough and all that was supposed to disappear. We're supposed to have this wonderful new relationship. And this new relationship seems to me is going to benefit the company, but not necessarily the workers. If you look at what's been talked about, they're talking about adding some money to some of the lowest paid workers in the auto industry anywhere in the world at $14 an hour, adding a couple bucks to that, but doing so at the expense of the higher paid workers who've been in the plant for 15, 20 years. They'll get no increases, simply signing bonuses and other bonuses. So this will be a great agreement for the company, but as Jeff said, it's going to be a hard sell, I believe, with a lot of the workers.
Buzz, though, isn't there a slightly different relationship between the company and the workers this time around, because the UAW retiree health plan holds a 10% stake in General Motors. So the stock price, as Jeff mentioned, which has been taking a beating lately, is a little more relevant to the union this time around, is it not?
I'm not sure how that plays out with individual workers. It may very well be more relevant to the union leadership who watch these things, but not many of the workers watch the stock market and try to figure out what the hell that means for their HST.
All right,
a point
Buzz.
well made, Buzz. Thank you.
A point well made. Buzz, great to see you. Jeff, thanks so much. Jeff Green, our Detroit bureau chief. Buzz Hargrove, former president of the Canadian Auto Workers. They still have no deal in Detroit. The talks continue between the UAW, General Motors, and Chrysler.